Some of the times when she throws up, you can't see it.
Got a hot mic, by the way.
Yeah. Well, I hope all our viewers are not judging me based off of my baby puke shirt. It's my baby blue baby puke shirt.
It could be worse.
It could be a lot.
Dude, we're both wearing blue. We almost just,
Color
knew it was a
coordinated?
blue kind of day.
Dude, I wasn't feeling blue,
Yeah.
but I'm wearing blue.
Blue's my favorite color.
No, it's not.
Yeah, it is.
It's my color. It's my favorite color too.
Yeah.
I wouldn't say it's my color, but I like to wear blue. The only problem is when I love blue shirts.
Yeah.
So I have so many blue shirts, and then I've got like jeans. And sometimes if I don't do my laundry, then I have like jeans and blue shirts. I'll still rock it though. I'll still do it.
Dude, you can't go wrong with blue.
You really
can't go wrong with
can't.
Blue.
How are you feeling tonight?
I'm gonna be honest. I'm a little bit tired, and I think you've probably seen it. I'm kind of dabbling around with my diet, and I think that's part of the reason I'm trying to figure out, moving the levers, what works best, how to optimize things, and I'm feeling, little highs and lows.
Okay,
Yeah.
okay.
But I mean, overall, I'm doing good. Don't get me wrong. My energy is down is probably the better way of putting it. But
So
yeah.
you're saying I have to have that extra energy tonight?
No, because if you have that
you're
extra
putting the pressure on me right now.
if you bring the extra energy, I think you might sound like you're screaming at people.
Like
We might need to turn down your
turn down
volume.
my mic. Well, I've got that extra energy, just so you know.
Well, good.
Yeah, like I'm turned up to 10. If you couldn't tell right when I walked in the door, it was like,
You've been crushing it lately, so I'm not surprised.
you know what? I feel like I've been crushing it.
Do you feel like when you have those periods of time where it's like everything's going well, you start to think, okay, what's going to happen? Like what bad could happen? No, that's not you.
No, I just have those down days. Like,
Yeah.
I mean, earlier today, I had a down. I was like super overwhelmed, which actually I think let's get into that a bit. Let's start the episode. I know we're hot mic'd right now, but welcome to Unscripted Exchanges today, guys. Thank you for joining us again. I'm Cole, one of your co-hosts.
I'm Hayden.
So I want to jump into that. That's why I wanted to get through that intro part because I mean, people know who we are at this point, right? I'm Cole, you're Hayden. But I was feeling overwhelmed actually this morning, and it just kind of reminded me of a thing that we've talked about in the past where you're going to have your ups and downs, your highs and your lows, but then you got to find your center and know yourself enough to know what's going to bring you back to like turning your day around. Mm-hmm. And so I did that. Today was my, I've been trying to get back in that fitness routine, and I've gotten a lot better. I've gotten a lot more consistent lately. And so I went for a run, like a pretty long run. I think it was like just over 5 miles, like 5.1.
Impressive.
Yeah, and got a good sweat, like was pretty exhausted afterwards. I feel a little dehydrated, a little woozy from that, but it really turned my whole day around, like completely shifted my day, and it kind of cleared my mind. I mean, I've got some things that are still dwelling in the back of my mind that are, kind of stressful to think about, but that weight on my shoulders feeling's gone, which was huge.
You had some endorphins being released on that.
I needed that.
Yeah.
I needed that 100%. And so I want to ask you this because I actually saw this article. I didn't read it, but it made me think of you. I saw this article the other day, how to get, it was something about a runner's high. Mm-hmm. And I feel like I don't think I've ever experienced a runner's high. But what is that? Like, I don't understand what a runner's high is. Is that just like a feeling of like unbelievable like happiness? Is that a feeling of accomplishment? Like, what is it? Is it like a physical thing? You've said it before too.
Yeah, it's probably different for each person. They would describe it, So like, it's not necessarily physical. It's mental. Like, how you're feeling. Like it can be euphoric. Like you just feel like you're on. For me, I should say, I feel like I'm on top of the world. Like feel really good, feel really strong. Like, I can keep going. Nothing can, slow me down. I'm not tired. Like you're just at peace with yourself and everything. Like you're enjoying the environment that you're in. And yeah, it's just basically all those chemicals floating around up in the cranium that are doing all sorts of things that are making you feel that way. And again, that's why I said it's different probably for everyone or for a lot of people. And yeah, I guess some people don't get that. I'm not going to say that I get a runner's high every time I go out, but I guess I have just, again, that mindset where like I get the opportunity to go out and run because there's going to be one point in my life where I won't be able to have that opportunity. So like I'm not taking that for granted and just going out and putting in the time.
No, I think you kind of addressed that. I was just wondering like, what is that? I mean, maybe I have felt it. Maybe
I'm sure you have.
Maybe I felt it today, but maybe I was like over analyzing. Like, okay, I gotta get to that runner's high, and maybe I had it today because I felt better afterwards.
Right. I mean,
but I was dead tired the whole time. So you're like, I get to the point where I'm like, dude, that 5 miles a day, I was just like, you gotta finish, you gotta finish, you gotta finish,
dude. I mean, if you run like all the time, like you're gonna have that like. Almost every time you go out and you just got to fight through it. Right. Like you have, peaks and valleys with that. I mean, yeah, I mean, running's different for every person, but yeah, there's times where it's like, shit, I really don't want to keep going, but like you have to mentally push past that and just keep going.
I hit mile 2 and I'm like, this isn't a good sign. I'm like, this is.
Do you keep looking down at your watch?
I had to turn, no, dude, I literally had to like, I had it like the distance going.
Yeah.
And I had to close it. Like, so I could still go back to it, like check my progress.
Yeah.
But I had to close it. And then I just had to I took my earphones out and I tried to just get my head somewhere different. Cause I was like, I'm not even halfway done.
Yeah.
And I'm already flagging. But one of the things I have learned, and this is something and I didn't know anything about till a few years ago. And we're talking about running. Was I used to run at like different speeds when I'd run, and that made it actually harder for me, which I didn't know that was a thing. Meaning like I would start jogging, and then I'd all of a sudden like start running faster, and then I'd go slower, and then I'd go faster.
Tempo runs.
Yeah, but I wasn't doing it intentionally.
Yeah.
So I have like gotten better about like, okay, this is my pace. I was trying to run like sub 11 minutes. I mean, sub 11 miles, which is super slow, but it was a 5 mile run. So I was going pretty slow, but I was consistently,
it's all relative. I think that's good. Someone out there that runs like a 13-minute miles and be like, wow, that's really good.
Be like, yeah. But either way, I was trying to get the mileage in. Honestly, just because I was like, I wonder if I could still do that. I was like,
you remember about a month ago when you're like, yeah, let's do, what was it?
I think that's probably secretly in the back of my mind.
Yeah, remember I kindly said, like, why don't you, ease into...
I think that was the back
I didn't really spit that out there, folks, but Cole called me up and he's like, do you want to train for a triathlon or something like that? And I said, whoa. Yeah, that's the same thing. It's just a special branding. And I said, whoa, yeah, I mean, that's great, but like, why don't you, I love the ambition, why don't you ease into, what that actually entails? I'm not saying that Cole can't do it. I know he probably will go out and do it someday, but I don't know if he should go out and do that right off the bat, considering how many marathons have you run?
0.
Yeah, right.
Dude, I'm telling you, it was pure willpower.
Yeah.
It was the fact that like I didn't have any water and dude, and I was like, if I walk this back, I'm not going to be back to my house till like 3:30 this afternoon.
Right.
Yeah.
Drink some sodium before you go out. Electrolytes.
Talking about like a Gatorade or something? Maybe not a Gatorade.
Gatorade sucks.
What about like a Powerade Zero?
No.
What about
like just get something that
Pedialyte?
I'm sure any of those things would be fine.
Something with sodium is what you're saying.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. See what that does.
I'll find something with sodium and see how I do.
Yeah.
I was really happy about it. Actually, that was when I called you earlier because I was just like, I'm about to tell Hayden I did 5 miles. Listen here.
No, that's impressive, man. That's where I was a few years back.
Okay.
Yeah, I mean, you got to start somewhere.
Yeah.
And sometimes you're like, no, I'm just not ever going to get into this consistently. And I always was in that paradigm of, well, running's bad for you. It's bad for your back, for your knees. And to some degree, yeah, but there is a lot of, solutions out there to help prevent you from injury and not being so bad on your body. And that's what evolution's all about. You start to learn how things really operate, the why, and how to recover properly. I mean, sports recovery is like a completely new, I'm not going to say completely new, I'm backtracking. It's a market that's growing every year by like billions and billions of dollars. Like recovery is just as important as training.
Well, you see those athletes that look at Tom Brady. It's a perfect example.
Yep. He's turning back the clock.
Seriously, right? He's performing at that level, and it's not by mistake. It's not just genetics. Part of it's probably genetics, right?
I'd say a small percent, but yeah.
Part of it.
Yeah.
Genetics always has something. Genetics does have its say, right?
Yep.
But there's also think about all the stuff he's doing to his body. And and I'm sure there's a lot of stuff we don't know about that he hasn't come out and said, but just some of the stuff that he's promoted, like with TB12, like plyometrics and stuff like that. He's gotten to the point where he's got a system of what he puts into his body, how he recovers, how he stretches, and dude's playing like a MVP caliber 25-year-old at 44. Which brings up an interesting topic because you're talking about how far sports recovery and sports medicine has come, especially sports recovery, right? The amount of technology and supplements and tools that are out there, and it's come, especially over the past 10 years. So much focus has been not on just the hard pumping iron, getting built, but also like how do you make sure your muscles you have elasticity and recover from that? And then what do you do in the off season? How do you get back to that? And an interesting thing that you brought up to me the other day when we were talking about the sauna off. You're talking about your sauna and your like ice bath or whatever, or chamber, or whatever it is, sky chamber. What was it, like air chamber?
Cryotherapy, but I don't remember mentioning that.
You did. It was like, yeah, we've talked about this a couple times. Was biohacking.
Yeah.
And what is biohacking?
Well, to me, biohacking is basically preventing yourself from premature death. You want to prolong your life. You want to improve your quality of life. So you're doing things, lots of things. It depends on the person in terms of what they want to do. But you're trying to always optimize your life, and you're taking activities to do the things that will hopefully prevent you from dying earlier than you would probably like to. For example, and this is pretty extreme, you can start to do some stem cell transfers, which is a little bit wild. I haven't done that. I'm just learning myself. I think people are also very conscious of, well, of course, not I think, I know, the food that they put into their bodies. We're learning more and more by the day in terms of how food impacts our biology. But the food that you put into your body might be different. Like your body might react or respond different than, putting in that same type of food. So kind of knowing what's going to aid you versus what doesn't aid you. Sleep is super important. We're learning more about sleep. It's not always how much sleep you're getting, but the quality of your sleep, how much REM you're getting. There's a lot of different things that go into biohacking. There's some really extreme stuff that I wouldn't even really get into because there's not enough evidence that
actually works.
It's yeah. But yeah, the sauna, the cold baths, ice baths that we were talking about offline the other day, like stuff like that could be seen as a form of biohacking. So I think it's a term that is slowly becoming part of more and more people's vocabulary, and something that more and more people are looking to, invest in and implement as part of their everyday life.
Well, right. And I think what I'm hearing you say is, biohacking at its core, the kind of the definition of it is finding the best way to hack your biology to make you perform better and live longer, right?
Yeah, exactly.
You're hacking your human biology, whatever that is. And what is super, super cool about that concept, I think, is that there is so much technology and resources out there, but there's definitely things that we can all do right from our homes that will help with that. Like biohacking, when you first hear that term, it sounds like, oh, it must be some big scientific, program you got to go through, right? I got to go through a biohacking, institute, but it's really like just a way to like make your body function better. And there's different ways to do that. Obviously, there's extreme measures, which I don't think calling a sauna is extreme, but maybe the use cases of it, or cold baths or stuff like that is one form of, I think, biohacking in some degree, but also like what you put into your body, like what foods you're eating, what exercises you're doing, how much you're working out with weights versus stretching versus running versus cardio versus that. I think it's just such a cool thing that, for me, it's like when I first heard that term, I was like, Again, I was like, that sounds like I'm gonna have to go to like, the Swiss Alps and like check myself into a biohacking like research lab. But there's a lot of ways you can address it, like right from your home, which I think is super cool. Like, and at the end of the day, it's just about making your body function better and at the end of the day, if your body's functioning better and running more smoothly, like that's just gonna make your life better, right?
Yeah. I mean, I want to live forever. And not forever. I want to live for well over 125 to like 150, maybe even longer. And how am I going to do that? I'm going to look for ways to continually optimize my health and biohack. And to some people that sounds, ridiculous and the go-to from a lot of people, typically people that are a little bit older, like, I don't want to live forever. Like I want to die. Like that sounds miserable. Well, the point that people are missing is your quality of life doesn't decrease. Like you want to continue to improve your quality of life, and you can even turn back the clock in terms of how your body is aging. I mean, I'm in the very early stages of learning about biohacking and some of the stuff that I'm doing, but I think it's going to be something that continues to grow very quickly as more and more people start to find out about it. And as you mentioned, when you first hear it, you kind of feel like, oh, this probably is something for someone that is much smarter than me, or I got to invest a whole bunch of money. I mean, to some degree, or some of these scenarios that people are doing, yes, but there are things that you can still implement as part of your everyday life that can kind of help add years onto your life.
Well, I think the key there of what you said is that progression of life without without decreasing like your, what's I looking for? Like you want to grow older, but not decrease your life, like how you feel, right?
Yeah.
And so usually you have a regression of your health as you get older. You hit
Totally
30 to 35 to 40. You're going to have a regression to some extent of how your body functions, how your muscles feel, how your joints do, how fast your metabolism is. But the goal is, if, with the right hacks for whatever it is in your body, the goal is what you're reaching for. And what I'm on board with is taking that next 10 years, but still feeling like I'm 27 or 28, right? At 38, I want to feel like I do now physically, right? And I would feel better. I want to be like 10 years from now, I want to be like, man, I feel like be 18 again when I hadn't ever touched drinking alcohol and I was working out 4 hours a day and my head's clear. I want to feel like that. I want to get, and so what's really neat about that whole topic and again, I'm not an expert, like obviously at all. But I'm open to learning about it.
Totally.
And educating myself. And I mean, who doesn't want to like wake up in 10 years from now and be like, I feel better than I did 10 years ago. I mean, how much of a competitive advantage is that?
Yeah, it's a huge competitive advantage, but unfortunately there's a lot of people out there that I don't think want to or think that way. I mean, look at and I'm going to sound very judgmental here, but look at all the people that are out there smoking cigarettes, drinking alcohol, and those are just two quick examples that come to mind. Like that is proven not good for your health, and people still choose to do that. Why would you do negative things to your body? And I'm not going to say that I haven't done that. I've done that stuff in the past, but it's been years now.
Well, you're speaking from your opinion, right? Yeah. Like you're like, listen, I'm not going to do that stuff to my body.
Right.
Yeah. I want to age. I want to go up. I want my body to feel better as I age.
Yeah, I want to get better, smarter, faster, stronger. Like,
Right.
why wouldn't you want to do that? I want to have a competitive advantage that no one can beat me, and it's because I'm doing all of these things.
You know what's super cool about that too?
What?
Well, think about that. I mean, like, just take a second and think about, like, just take everything, pull everything away from what we're talking about, and just think about, like, if you're 10 years down the road and you feel better. I mean, that's nuts. That is a concept that's mind blowing to everybody. Most people. I mean, the world's shifting, but you go to talk to any person out there, and they're going to say, "There's a man 10 years from now." They're not going to say, "I'm going to feel healthier in 10 years," but you can. I think that's the goal. Like, if you can, think about how
Feel is also different than fact. I want to, jump in there. You can quote unquote feel something, but doesn't mean it's a reality.
Well, I'm saying, like, you're physically, like, if you go to the doctor and you go get it.
Yeah, I knew what you meant, but I wanted to jump in there to some people that are like, well, yeah, feeling is just a feeling. It can be temporary. But I'm talking about, like you said, physical. You can see that the person is in physical condition, like they're healthy, they're happy. Sorry,
there's the fear, there's the mental and spiritual feel, right? Where you get 10 years on the road, you're like, I've matured. Things have gotten better. I've made more money, right? Things are easier now. I've learned my lessons. Yeah, what I was referring to is that you don't go to most people and say, in 10 years, are you going to feel physically? You're going to be able to go do a physical or go, do some stress testing and, like, have better results than you do now. And that would be, like, that, to me, that's exciting.
That's the definition of turning back the clock to me.
I mean, that's so cool, right? Mm-hmm. And the fact of the matter is that we're understanding more about the human body is that it's actually possible.
Totally.
Right? Yep. I mean, it's possible to do that. The reason we regress is time wears down on us, but we also don't take care of ourselves as much as we get older a lot of the times. Or we're not doing those things, or we're letting things slide. So I just think that, like, that concept to me, just that 10 years, physically feel better in 10 years than I do now. That sounds awesome. Like, that's something to strive for.
It certainly is. Yeah. I mean, I wrote a post out on my LinkedIn the other night about this, and if I had the opportunity, I would invest every single penny that I had in health. Because if you don't have health, what do you have?
Right. Well, everything.
Nothing.
Right. Everything.
When you're dead, you're dead. Or if you feel like crap, you feel like crap. You don't want to feel like crap.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I love it.
Yeah. I'm excited for the future, man. Big things for everyone if you choose that path.
Yeah. So I got a question. Here, I guess this is what's like. And I don't know if this is out there or not, but my mind's running. So we're talking about, like, biohacking, right? And everybody's biology is differently. So you made a comment about like what you put in your body, right?
Uh-huh.
So for you, your makeup and what you need is different than what I need, right? It's like, as far as, like, your diet or what fits for your body and for how you process vitamins and food and digest is different than me, because we're different humans, right? We're different people. The question is there something out there, and maybe I'm just throwing something out there. Do you know of anything that literally you can go get, like, a blood test or something where they'll, like, say, hey, here's what you need to be putting in? Like, how cool would that be?
Yeah, there's stuff out there.
Is there?
Yeah. I mean, you could take a food sensitivity test. That's the first thing that comes to mind. And there's some other tests out there that I don't know enough about, but yeah, there's certainly stuff out there.
That sounds like something I want to do.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, like, to me, the ideal state is literally rolling out of bed, feeling like $1 million, not groggy, like knowing the sweet spot of, like, when your body is quote unquote been fully recharged and you're ready to go. And you have a report that's telling you, like, what you need for that day. There will be points in time where you'll literally go to the bathroom. They'll be able to read your excrement and tell you what type of diseases you're highly susceptible to and, like, how you're feeling, things like that. Like, we're going to be living in a future that's so remarkable. We're going to be able to prevent a lot of diseases. We're going to live longer, healthier lives. So I'm excited for that.
That's exciting too. Like, the technology that's going to be there, that's going to help us to live that, like, just to live better, live healthier, live longer.
Right. And the one thing, though, that I will call out is just because the technology is there, or people start to become more and more educated, you still got to have people take the onus of actually wanting to live a lifestyle like that, because
Right.
there's still going to be a lot of people that will be either skeptic, lazy, just don't want to do it. And that, that's up to them. That's their decision. It's their own life. They're allowed to do whatever they want to do.
Well, right. So this is, again, it's to each their own.
Sure.
I love to say that. I believe in that because in my opinion, like I don't judge anybody for any decisions they make. That's your decision. Do whatever you want, right? I'm going to do me, and I might disagree with how you're living life. I might disagree with what you're doing, but I mean, at the end of the day, unless you're really close, like you're a family, if you're a close family member, you're a close friend, you're in my inner circle. I mean, it's not to say I don't care about people, but
What's your definition of judging versus disagreeing?
my definition of judging. Ooh, that's a good question.
Yeah, that you made me think of that.
So disagreeing to me is a stance that is, that's a tough one. A stance. Somebody takes a stance on something, or has an opinion about something that I don't necessarily share that view. I'm disagreeing with you. Like, as in, you think that the Bengals are going to be terrible next year, and I disagree. I think the Bengals are going to be good. That's a disagreement. I disagree with how, and that's a very general analogy. But judgment, I try not to judge people because you never know what's going on in their lives. But judgment is more like, you told me that you wanted to lose weight, but now you're going and eating McDonald's. Like, I'm being judgmental in that. Like, that's, to me, that's being judgmental. But sometimes, like, that's, you can't really help it. Like, if somebody says they want to do something and then they go do the opposite, I mean, I'm probably going to be a little judgmental. I might say something to them. But there's just, to me, there's a difference. There's a, being judgmental is picking on somebody's actions when it wasn't necessarily focused towards you, versus picking on, disagreeing, which is it's a direct conversation or it's an opinion that you're saying, no, I don't agree with. This is my view on it. I look at it that way. I look at judgment as more on like actions, or I don't know. I mean, I tried to explain
There's
it.
no
but
right or wrong
tough.
answer. I think hearing you say that, it gave me some time to process an answer or spit out an answer myself. Disagreeing to me would be presenting, the information that you have, your point of view, whether or not you truly have facts and logic. And if someone disagrees with you or you have a different point of view, you kind of you let it be. Mm-hmm. It is what it is. Versus being judgmental, you treat that other person differently based on their viewpoints.
Okay.
So that's how I would differentiate between judging versus disagreeing. Disagreeing, if Cole doesn't like the Bengals, which he does like the Bengals, folks, but if he didn't, it's all right. I would still, be his friend and I wouldn't treat him any differently, versus being judgmental would be like, oh, he doesn't like the Bengals, I'm going to treat him differently. I don't like that person. I'm going to do some maybe, shady things. Like, that's what comes to my mind.
Right. Being judgmental almost like has an action behind it, or like more of a feeling. Like,
correct.
Like, disagreeing is just like, yeah, we don't see the same way on that.
Yep.
And judgmental is like, I don't see the same way on that, and I also think this of you because of that.
Correct. Now, I will say, and this might be a hot take, judging people is important.
Okay, explain that.
Well, you gotta protect yourself. You gotta protect your family. There are situations where you need to understand that, okay, this person believes in X, Y, and Z, and that could have a negative impact on yourself, your family. So you have every right to stay away from people like that or not associate yourself. You're allowed to judge people. It's called survival of the fittest.
I kind of like that. Okay, I didn't know where you were going with that.
Dude, we're digging deep, man. Yeah, we have different thoughts. We talk about this, how our brains process things differently.
I'm glad. Like, I didn't know you were like. I'm like, hold on a second. Like, where's he? But
I got you thinking now.
Well, yeah, because I'm thinking thinking, man, like getting off my self-righteous horse. I'm like, I'm not judgmental. I'm like, well, shit. You actually got a point, because you judge, like you said. Damn, man, you're making me think. Because
that's the point of our show, damn it.
I mean, you're really being judgmental on a lot of different aspects of your life. They're just not always negative connotations, right?
Yeah.
You can judge somebody as a good character versus bad character. You can be judgmental in a positive way. Like, hey, I'm being judgmental that you're a good positive person to be around, or I'm being judgmental that, you just punched somebody in the face the other night and, you like to go out and rage on every, 3 nights a week, and I don't want you around my family. I don't want to be around that. That's judging it. And so I guess really, like, you put it that way.
Yeah, I just put a different spin on it.
But I kind of like it.
Yeah, it's an opinion.
No, but I
Gets you
know.
thinking.
But that was like you noodled on that one.
While you were giving your take on that, yeah. So let us know in the comments, folks, what your thoughts are on judging people versus disagreeing. Maybe Cole and I are completely wrong, living on a different planet out here, but I enjoyed that take.
No, that was so good. That was so good. You really threw me off with that. I'm looking at you going, where's he going to run with this?
I told you going into tonight's episode, we wanted to just let things flow, be organic. That's when things are at our best, our raw feedback, our raw thoughts.
And then now I'm thinking about like, man, like as a parent, you do teach your kids to be judgmental.
Yeah, we do. The
right?
education system.
You're like, don't be judgmental, but don't hang out with that kid if he's bad. Yeah. Right? If that kid's acting up and isn't nice to you, don't hang out with him. That's not good for you. Exactly. But then you're like, but don't be judgmental. It's like we're basically, again, man, I'm just poking holes in everything I know about being a parent. Not like I'd change a whole lot, but this is like I'm diving deeper right now. I'm thinking like, okay, how can I be like? We've talked about this before, where I'm like, I try not to be a hypocrite with my daughters. Right? It's like, okay. I wonder if she's ever thought to herself, Dad just told me not to be judgmental, and then he like told me to not hang out with that person because he's judging the way they act. I wonder if she's ever thought that.
So I've thought of something around that, and I think I wrote something a few years back, just a little blog post, but we're all hypocrites, right?
Oh, yeah.
We all say something and then do the complete opposite, or we don't practice what we preach. Where I try to reflect on things is how often, or what's the frequency in which I'm a hypocrite, or what is the frequency in which someone's a hypocrite. And that's where I start to draw the line in terms of, should I associate myself with someone like that? And again, this goes back to being very judgmental. Like if Cole is practicing, or he's saying that I am, a churchgoer, but you don't end up going to church. And again, this is just an example that first comes to mind. Or, I enjoy working out, but I haven't seen you in the gym for months. Like things like that. It's like, okay, he's lying, or he's a hypocrite. He's not practicing what he's preaching. And like you start to track some of that stuff. His behaviors aren't following like what he's saying. So it's like, I'm probably going to stay away from someone like that.
Uh-huh.
Yeah.
Yeah. I'm not a hypocrite though, on that stuff at least.
Oh, by the way, Cole is not a hypocrite. Let's make that clear. It sounds like I'm just ripping into Cole tonight, and I'm not. I'm using
example.
him as an example.
I'm definitely a hypocrite sometimes.
Well, sure.
We all are. We all are.
That's what I was getting at. We all are. But like, how often are you catching yourself? Which goes back to what you were just highlighting with your daughter, Ava. Like, okay, I'm telling her to do this, but do I like actually end up doing this in reality?
Right.
And if you find yourself doing that time and time again, that's where you need to like take a step back and change. Like, oh, I need to actually practice what I'm preaching,
or like at least acknowledge it. Like, you know what I love?
Yeah, that's the first step.
I love when people do something, or like I've caught myself doing it, and I try. And this is not me again. I'm not tooting my own horn, but I will literally be like, "Oh shit, I'm being such a hypocrite right now." Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? Like, that, and I'll even say to people, like, even like. I'm like, sorry, I didn't even do that. Like, I need to be better about that. Like, I'm telling you what to do, but I'm being a hypocrite. Like, I think there's things that are bigger, way heavier scales of hypocritism. Is it a word, hypocrite?
It sounds like it could be a word. If it's not, it's a good one. We're good at making up words here on the show.
Hypocritism. That's so bad.
Well, what you're describing is being self-aware. You're recognizing at times when, you are being a hypocrite. And we all are. So
yeah, that's interesting.
People are going to be like, wow, these guys are talking about being hypocrites, being judgmental.
You know what's interesting, though, is I was thinking today about how I wanted to have a really deep conversation tonight.
Dude, you're manifesting things.
And we're like into it now. Well, I was just like, you know what? Like we've had good conversations recently, but like this is pulling at some strings on me. Some deep.
We're in deep thought here,
dude,
man.
You're really diving into my soul. Okay. Like, no, I got to pull back out of it. No, I think that's that's super insightful and true. Like I love when we say stuff that's true. We say a lot of true stuff, but like truly like at the core, such a genuine statement that we're all hypocrites. Like that we are all hypocrites to some degree or another. That's just kind of human nature, and just the best way to deal with that is to be self-aware and try to catch yourself. And you know what really drives me nuts, speaking on this, is when people are hypocrites, but then they give other people shit. They're like, I'm like, they're a hypocrite, right? They don't practice what they preach, but then they like take it one step further and they're like being judgmental, like literally like bashing on somebody. And you're like, dude, I know you don't do that.
Right.
Like
check yourself.
Yeah. Like then it gets under my skin and I'm like, no.
Totally.
Then you get, then the fun Cole comes out where I just call you out on it. I'm just like, yeah, you're full of it. Like, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, sometimes you gotta tell people the truth.
I'm a little blunt sometimes, I think.
You gotta tell people the truth, man. And I think that's, something that society is starting to be afraid to share. And I raise my hand too. Like, you gotta be careful what you talk about at times, but like, it's all right to give people constructive feedback or criticism. There is a right way to go about doing so, but it's also acceptable to say like, hey, like, you're not living up to your standards, or from a business setting, like, hey, like you're not meeting the minimum requirements of your role. Like, it's all right to give people that feedback versus, oh, everything's, dandy over here. Nothing could ever go wrong. Like, that's a utopia of a world. Like, I actually enjoy people giving me some healthy criticism or feedback. Like, how can I improve on areas of my life? Now, it does become a little bit overwhelming if that's all people are, saying, and you got to then sometimes just,
dial it back. Like,
okay. Exactly. Like, yeah. Okay, but the point being is I do enjoy hearing from, my managers or leaders or even family members or friends, like, hey, like, have you thought of this? Like, give me some feedback. Like, that helps me grow versus, oh, you're so super special. I mean, shit like that. It's like, that's great. It is nice to be acknowledged and, hear that good stuff. But at the same time, like, tell me like where I can get better. Where can I grow as a human being? Like, that's where you really get to know someone and what their character is. Like, when you respond to, okay, Cole told me that I could be a little bit nicer when it comes to thinking about our podcast conversations or something like that. It's like, okay, you're right, Cole. Like, how do I, change my mindset? How do I become a little bit more open to other types of topics, things like that, versus, oh, no, Hayden, what you're doing is perfect all the time. Like, yeah, that's a crock of shit,
I think we as I think society, I'll use the word society, we have a hard time, especially young as we're younger, we have a hard time of separating constructive criticism from just criticism, right? And there's a difference, because criticism is a negative thing. Like, criticizing somebody is negative. That is you. If you're criticizing other people and other things, I disagree with that. I just think there's no place for it in this world. I don't like it. That's the one thing that could really turn my dial up in irritation, because look at yourself before you criticize anybody else. And all criticism is just negative vibes. Let's go criticize, but constructive criticism, the way you approach it. And I think as people, especially when we're younger, we have that, we ride that fine line of not understanding when to accept constructive criticism and to take it as a positive versus thinking it's just being critical, right? Well, you're just being critical of me. No, take a deep breath, listen. I've learned that a lot in my life, and I do appreciate when people approach it the right way. I've gotten, I've seen a lot of growth in my life over the past 5 years, because I've been in so many different environments and jobs and in different groups, whether they're entrepreneurs or people from different cultures or different age groups, where they're all intelligent, experienced individuals that have all these different things. And I've found myself going, okay, I want to hear what you have to say about me. Like, if you're not going to give me feedback, I'm going to come ask you for feedback. I did this. What do you? And sometimes you're not going to get that, but it's that balancing act of us as humans and growing up. And I urge everybody that's listening to this, that's younger, don't take this the wrong way, but try to take criticism better sooner. Try to take, constructive criticism. I don't mean criticism. Try to take constructive criticism in the positive way earlier on in your career and in your life, because there's so much you can learn. And constructive criticism doesn't always mean it's actually right. You don't have to always agree with constructive criticism. So it can be positive feedback that you're like, nah, I don't agree with it, right? But accept that, right? Because now you know one person's opinion and how they did it. Doesn't mean you have to do it that way, but you might hear something else, and then you can go, okay, here's my way of doing it. I just think that's something I wanted to share, because I've grown so much as a leader, right? And what I do for work, and as a family guy with friendships, being able to like have those real conversations and not take my armor and put it up every time somebody tries to tell me something, right? Hey, I've got some feedback for you. Oh no. And I can't. And another thing too, you mentioned, I like that you mentioned that. This is something you also kind of get as you get older and you become more of a leader of your own life. You stop loving that, what's it called? The echo chamber kind of mindset. You stop loving that. It's nice to hear good feedback. It's nice to hear people go, you're awesome, you're great.
Yeah.
But you kind of stop loving that, because you're kind of just like,
it's boring.
You're like, thanks.
Right.
Is there any way you can help me be better at it?
Right.
Like, I appreciate it, but like, it didn't do much for me, because what I really would love to hear is, hey, that was great, but here's something you could add to it, right? Here's a way that I think you could be better. And maybe I don't take that, but it's an interesting dynamic when you start looking at things that way, right? You're like, cool. Like, that episode was great, Cole. Thanks.
So
what did you like about it? What could I have added?
Here's an exercise for both of us and anyone out there listening. Text a few of your closest friends, family members, or whomever it might be, and say, hey, I enjoy, our relationship. What can I do to improve upon myself as a human being? Like, what are some of my, weaknesses, and how can I grow over time, and see where that conversation goes? And going back to some of what you were just mentioning there, Cole, I think, criticism, is coming from a place of negativity where you're trying to tear down someone, versus constructive feedback is someone coming from a place of love. They want to see that person grow and become better, and recognizing the difference. So I really enjoyed what you had to share there. So I think that's important for all of us to understand, no matter where we are in our journey with life, no matter your age, your location, etc. What do you say, man? I feel like we wrap things up.
I wanted to make one more final comment.
Go for it.
Because I do think there's a kind of a foolproof way, and this is maybe a shortcut to understanding when to put your guard down and when somebody's being constructive, because sometimes people come off the wrong way, or you take it the wrong way.
Mm-hmm.
But what I've learned, a little trick of the trade for all you guys listeners out there, is we'll ask them how can I improve on that? Because a lot of the times the negative criticism that's coming from a bad place, it's somebody that's most of the time like had a bad day or had something else going on, or they did something wrong and got yelled at, whether it's work or something,
mm-hmm.
and they just want somebody to blame. And if you say, well, how can I get better? And if they were being truly constructive, and maybe and you misheard it, they'll tell you like, hey, well, this is what you should do, and they'll educate you, right? That's a good way to figure out if you're just reading things the wrong way, because sometimes people say things in a different light. But if somebody's being truly constructive, they'll be able to tell you, hey, this is what you did wrong. I can tell you how to do it right. And that's constructive, versus you just did this wrong. And you say, tell me how to do it right. And they don't want to tell you. That's just negativity. Don't let that flood your life.
I love that. I'm glad that you jumped in and added that.
I added that little tidbit.
You know, that's super important. I think one last thing that I'll add, and then we can wrap.
This is the Midwest sign off. We've
I
got
know.
17.
We keep doing it time and time again. We're not gonna ever change here. I would say if you do feel like overwhelmed with some of the feedback, whether it is constructive criticism or it is someone just being critical, sometimes it is very tough to recognize. And I know you mentioned like how you kind of decipher between the two there. For me, I would also try to just give yourself 24 to 48 hours of time to just like sleep on things and really process and reflect, and then come to that right state of mind and then respond versus, you know, off the cuff. Like if you do get that feedback that you might not agree with, like you
take a deep breath.
You prevent yourself from, you know,
saying something,
burning bridges. Yeah, exactly. So with that, let's wrap things up. We appreciate you guys listening, and this was probably my favorite episode that we've ever done, and we're on episode 26. You know, only took us a few tries to get this right, but our previous shows are just as great. But this one meant a lot. We talked about some really deep stuff, Cole. So if you guys enjoy this type of topic, please let us know. Again, we gave you guys a little bit of homework too. Text your friends, let them know how you can grow as a human being. Tell us the difference between judging someone versus disagreeing. We have our thoughts, but want to hear from you. Cole, anything else that you'd share?
Appreciate you guys chiming in, communicating, engaging with us. We've got some pretty exciting guests coming on to talk about their life experiences, their input. It's things are just going up and up and up, and we're so stoked to be doing this, to be creating value in your lives. And it's creating, I'll say this, you guys are helping me as well, listeners, and Hayden, I'm becoming a better person. This is therapeutic for me. So we really appreciate it. We're going to keep knocking this content out, and we're going to see where this takes us. So thank you.
Thanks, everyone. Have a great week, and we'll talk to you next time.